You're on.
Welcome, everybody, to Connections. This is the forum for relationships, for expression, and for healing. And we are with episode 24. Today's topic is the beginning of a new miniseries, which is called Taming the Emotional Ogre. And today we'll be talking about how to give the best apology that wins them back. I'm Heidi Hörnlein. I'm a transformational coach, and I'm also a voice coach, and I work with men and women to help them to overcome their relationship difficulties and to find their authentic voice in the world. And I'm the owner of Paradiso Integrale. This is a retreat house in Italy where we hold retreats, and we will be happy if you come to us. Go on, Margarita, and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Margarita Crystal Lotus, and I'm an intuitive life and business mentor who help professional women overcome overwhelm and stress, and so that they can restore their energy and have fulfilling relationship, and also make their career flourish. And I also have a retreat here in Kingston, Canada called Enchantment, where I see my clients from time to time. And I'm the founder of the crystallotus.com, a vehicle for conscious awareness and personal development. So take it away, Heidi.
Wonderful. Just to say some words about our show. Our show offers single episodes and short miniseries as the one now, and we had one about ego and one about money in the past. And we have talks between each other like today, Margarita and myself, and we have also special guests with whom we do interviews regarding the most important areas of human life, such as relationship issues, as we talked before, personal expression and self-development, and also healing. And this is the specialty of Margarita. And the overall purpose of this mini-series is to give inspiration and to teach skills with which we can tame the emotional upheavals in which everybody enters into from time to time.
So before we dive into our topic, I'd like you to post your comments or questions below on the event page, and we'd like to interact with you. If you're watching the video, the replay, please don't hesitate to put your comments and questions, because we will answer every single one of them. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, we will. And so let's dive into the Taming the Emotional Ogre, how to give the best apology that wins them back. This is a title you have created, Margarita, and I really wonder, what does it mean? Can you say some words about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, when I was thinking about what topics to talk about, I had this sort of vision of a circus where there is a wild animal, a lion, let's say, and then the lion tamer. And sometimes it's like that. There is two forces, or there's forces of real great violence inside of each person, like a lion could eat that lion tamer. So in order to actually address some of these emotional reaction that happens in a relationship, the first point of working to solve them is to own what we actually transgressed, what we did to provoke the other person. So if you think about the lion and the lion tamer, we step back and try to not have violent language and start to listen a little bit, and so that they can calm down, something along those lines. So does that describe it, Heidi?
Yeah, in some way you are already giving the solutions. So what I understand, if I understand you right, you are talking about our emotional potential, which every human being has, in it themselves. And there is, for instance, love, there's fear, there's joy, and there's also some, what you call emotional ogre, some beast who wants to harm, who wants to kill, or who wants to whatever. This is just, I mean, we are here in the assumption that we human beings have all that. And in fact, in the early days of humanity, I think these more primitive emotional expressions like anger, explosive anger, and then killing each other was really normal. And what you are talking about is, if I've understood it right, that we still have these because we are humans and we don't get rid of any, innate potential, good and bad ones. And that when they come out, and they will come out sooner or later in our lives, and they have already come out probably several times, that we gain the possibility, the skills to tame these. Not, as I heard you say, not by repressing them, because there were generations and generations who tried to repress them, and then, out of nothing, an explosion came, and the well-tempered person who seemed a loving person, and I don't know, killed the whole family out of a rage. This is the result of suppressing the emotions. You are talking about handling the emotion in a different way and not suppressing them and not even letting them play out to the harm of other people. So is it that, Margarita?
Yeah. I can take an example from the other day for myself. I'm working with emotional triggers and helping my clients to solve and handle when their inner triggers are activated. So what happened for me the other day was there was a little interaction and I lost consciousness in the moment because the other person, he called me up and I don't know, there was something in the voice. I had 5 other things that I was doing in that moment, so I wasn't paying attention like 100%. And then he said something, which in itself was not really neither here or there, but the way and the tone he used triggered my issue. And I didn't see it, and I reacted. I said something. And then it took a minute to see, oh my goodness, I got triggered here. What was it? I had to spend a little time explaining what I said to him to figure out how can I come out of this. And then afterwards I thought, wow, even if you're working a lot of times with triggers, there's still triggers underneath. And what happened was my brain shut down and the consciousness went down into the fight and flight. So something he wanted to ask about, some information, and I said, no, I'm not going to tell anything like that, right? And he got sort of miffed by that and make some comments. And then, I mean, after I handled it, so it didn't go to an argument, but the actual interaction of misunderstanding can be blown up totally. And if it was like, if that had happened, let's say 10 years ago, we might have had a screaming match, And it's like, even for experts and people who work in the field, I'm not a master exactly, but on the way there. It can happen to anyone, however far you have studied this particular topic. But the thing is, like, when somebody is triggered, they are not inside of a rational mind. They go to another place. It's the 3-year-old temper tantrum kid that didn't get what they wanted, or it's the an abuse situation where a person feels completely helpless and shuts down and go into that fragments inside. It's very harmful to have interactions where other people trigger and we trigger each other. So to come out of that and actually build friendship and a relationship that actually works, one has to sort of approach these things for example, one can say, listen, I got really upset now. I don't know what happened. Can we just calm down a bit, you know? Something like that. Or I could say, I realized I got something triggered in me. Can forgive me, but I need to see what that is. Can we continue this later? And if the other person has this understanding that I'm not blaming them, I own that I actually sort of reacted in that place, and I didn't tell the other person what they have to do. I just asked, can you listen to my explanation to what happened to me? And sort of that worked to 50% in this case, because the other person in this case got also triggered by me not want to tell the information, right? Does that explain it a little more?
It really does, and it confirms also what I said. We never get rid of these triggers. Even if we are advanced, developed, evolved, whatever, we still have these triggers. They're just human. But what we can learn is to handle them. And you named a way, you named that you can say, I'm sorry, something happening to me just now. It has nothing to do with you. I need some time. Could we talk about this later, or something like that? Make sure that there is no blame on the other person. I actually am teaching a communication technique which is called conjunctive communication. There's also a website, so far only in German, conjunctivecommunication.com, a blog actually, where I want to have the input of other people and help them to discover this different way of communication. And it's based on our possibility, on our ability, this is the right word, ability to handle our own emotions. And this actually we can learn. And if we want to create peace on earth, we better do first create peace in ourselves and peace in our close relationship. I think everybody can relate to these moments where everything is blown up, and especially in intimate relationships. It is so easy that we enter into dead lanes, into break up situations where it is so difficult to come out because we love each other. Then we sort of try to forget what has happened and go on for a while, and then it happens again, and then again we don't have the means how to handle the situation because we still love each other. We sort of pretend that nothing has happened, and we go on and we go on, and after every time the relationship basis is reducing itself, and at the end there comes the moment where you need to break up, and you might still have the love for each other. It might also be buried because of all these disappointments. But this separation might not have been necessary if you knew how to handle these situations. It might even, for me, this conjunctive communication, which I teach, is a means to go deeper in connection. Use and welcome the conflicts. Use and welcome these moments of being triggered to create deeper connection. And one of the means, Margarita, you say it right, is by being transparent, by saying, oh, this has now triggered me. I can't handle it in the moment because I have a blank. You said it's nothing in the head anymore. I don't know where I am. I need some time to find myself again. And be very, very vulnerable with that. So the other person has the possibility to understand. The earlier you say that without trying to fix things for a long time before, when you can say that quite at the beginning, then nothing can happen.
It is really that, like something in the brain. It's a switch. It's like a switch that switch off what happened. And I realized what my switch was there. It was like he came across quite happily, but I didn't really know who it was on the phone, first of all. And then And he started out like a little bit abruptly. So what's the question about that? You know, in a kind of a happy voice. But it was, I felt, went back. I didn't know what the event was, but I realized it after. I went back in history a few years when I was attacked. And that is still lodged in my mind. I've worked on it a lot, but at that moment, my consciousness said, this is dangerous. We snapped into the other state, and then it was blank. And then I started to get up that Amazonian shield, you know, like a woman warrior who's not, it's not vulnerable, it's just shielding everything. Can you understand that? Like, you're not going to come closer than here. And of course, that triggers any man, right?
Yeah, and this doesn't really solve the problem. This creates war. And here's a comment from Kate. I put it on, and if you want, you can click on my little picture, and then it is in the stream. She says, work with emotions is the key for peace on earth, as we are manipulated through emotions.
Yeah, Kate, that is just, you're dead on there. Because this very thing I described happened to me. It happens to everyone. And if we don't know that this is a process of self-preservation from a time when we were Stone Age people, let's say, very early on in human development, that if I don't act from this point of view, I will be eaten. That wild animal is going to eat me. I have to fight it or run, right? And then you can understand it from that place. But it gets tricky because we have this polished surface outside. We can handle everything. And then instead of actually owning stuff, it can turn into a blaming game and escalating a conflict. And it's actually not the conflict with the person that is important. It's the inner conflict that we have inside, that we have stored inside. It's very, very important. That's the first thing one has to know when a communication has failed. And I know, Heidi, you probably have some comments about that too.
Yeah, I surely have. First of all, I wanted to ask you, people might not be familiar with the vocabulary which we are using here. You say owning. What does it mean? Owning what and how?
Yeah, okay, so this is a sort of a healing speak. We own our stuff. It's used with healing sessions and in the healing community quite a lot. But it's not to say it was my fault. But I can, when I own something, I say, for example, I don't know what happened now. I got triggered. I don't know what to do. Can we stop, right? So I own that something happened to me so that I can't continue communicating in this conversation, right? That's owning it. Okay, so I can also say, let's say if I lifted this object from this side of the table to the other side of the table, and then the other person had something disturbed connected with that, and I can say, yeah, I did move that object from here to there, but I had no idea what it meant for you. And that's owning what we did. So we say, yeah, I took this cup, or I said these words, but perhaps you hadn't an idea about what went on in my mind. Can I explain that? So it's like not saying that I am the blame for all the faults and you are all right. It's not about that.
And not even about the other thing, you know, when I'm angry about, then saying, you are making me angry, you have made me angry. This is what we normally do, but this is not owning. Owning is, I am angry. You might be the person who has taken the trigger to me. You have done something which has triggered me, but they are my emotions. and I'm angry. It's not your fault. I mean, when we want to talk about fault, but it's not fault. There was the occasion. The other person said something which has triggered me. And we normally give the responsibility to the other person. That's your fault, and you should behave in a different way. Oh, and so on, but it's not. We must
that's a very, very good point. Yeah, very good point, because if you don't understand this process of owning what your feelings are, what you are feeling, you can't continue to be successful in a relationship situation. It's not going to work. It's going to work the first time you say, I have these emotions, I'm angry, and then I own it like this. And then it's up to the other person also to do it if they have the skills to do it. And if they don't, they have learned from you something, and even if the relationship or the communication breaks up, they're going to remember that. They're going to remember that. And when they go in for healing, let's say, and then we deal with that. Let's say a parent to a child who is helpless, let's say, in that situation, and suffer trauma from controlling parents, let's say. Then we go in there, and then I'm saying to my client, let's say, so you were 3 years old, you didn't know these things, but you were angry. You were angry, and let's discuss that. Let's see if you can own that anger now. And then they work on that, and then they overcome that trauma. and overcoming it means that they can see each step of the way what their responsibility was, and that their assumption about the event, let's say, is removed, and so that they have clarity, so they have access to every step of the way inside of this trauma, so that that trauma is not triggering other things in communications in the future. It's a very brilliant. I
fully agree, but I think we have to add something here, because it is true that people sometimes behave very badly, that they really have the ability to push your triggers, or even worse, they are abusive or whatever. So it is not that you stay here and say, I own everything, he has no fault, it's all my feelings and it's only up to me. This is one part. The other part is not allow anymore as an adult the other person to behave in this way.
This is also very important, and so in my case, when I work with clients, I help them set a boundary of what the other for themselves, so that they feel safe. And I even have used martial arts techniques and acting it out on the on the lawn together with this client, and to see that, okay, can you be this warrior here and act it out in the body? And when we're working together and say, yeah, I can feel that strength and my aura is expanding and the energy level is brought up, and the grounding connection with the ground is very stable, like a sumo wrestler, right? Because if one feels like a sumo wrestler in the energy body, in our emotion, very grounded, very focused, and know where the energy boundaries are, very likely the other person is not going to transgress into that energy barrier, because the person themselves have built up their confidence, and with confidence comes an energy in the aura, in the actual aura, that builds really huge strength without even saying anything. So this is sort of a little more to the healing field rather than the coaching field. I don't know, but this is
So what you are speaking to is that it is good if both people or the people concerned are doing this work, but even if only one person is taking it on seriously and is developing their own inner strengths, their own boundaries, and as you say, then you emanate a different energy, and people won't attack you anymore in this way. You know it from the animals when they build themselves up like this, and the others
Yeah, like a dog that's coming at you, and then you're standing just like this, and then they back off. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's the same thing. If you have a problem in a relationship, get yourself an angry dog and learn to handle it. Then that could be another skill that people could engage in, because it's so powerful. You learn first about energy and about our animal emotion, and also how to deal with it. The taming of our own inner body, we have to see it by another person doing it, so that, oh, that's how you do it. And
Yeah.
they came out alive on the other side.
And I want also to add, not all the emotions which seem negative are bad. There is, for instance, anger. Anger, when it's excessive, maybe is bad and it's eating you up and creates upheaval. But a healthy anger is an energy, is a motor, for instance, to set boundaries, to finally set boundaries and protect oneself against abuse and attacks from the outside. Sometimes we need this energy of anger to really do what is needed to be done. Because when you're all the time like this, oh, I have, what can I do? And I cannot, you won't complete anything in the world with such a low energy. So anger can help. So don't dim down the anger immediately, but first check out if it is not given to you in that moment to set things into the right place.
I could share a personal story there, Heidi. And that was when I had been away from home a while, and my ex, it was back there, and I had been to Arizona or something for a couple of weeks. And then when I came back, and then I saw that he just took over my computer and taken over my whole desk. I mean, I'm very protective of my desk and my computer. And so I reacted like, "Rah!" And can you believe what he did? He did this and ran upstairs. He
Yeah,
just took off.
it is so important, because we women were educated to be nice and kind, and and let do with us whatever they want to do. And so men are not used that we get out our immediate anger. It is not a prolonged anger, but it's one which comes out of the situation. I have similar experiences, and then they shrink back. Not only men, also women, I guess. But I think people can feel if this anger is really from the inside and a genuine anger, or if it is a triggered anger, because not all emotions are triggered. That's what I wanted to say. And there is Kate who says, how do you handle people who use the emotions to manipulate you?
What a good question. Okay, so a manipulator, somebody who like a sleazy salesman, right, kind of thing, they use it consciously. They use their trigger to put the other person in place, very on a sometimes very conscious level, sometimes not, because they feel perhaps that they can't win the other person over unless they can finagle them. If there is like aggression going on, yeah, then you go on sideways, and then you're sniping your way in to actually be able to access any kind of power. It's very destructive in the end. So to deal with it, you first have to know about it and then nip it in the butt. Like if you feel manipulated, you really have to discover that. Okay, I was letting myself be manipulated by this person, and just think about what can you do for not being open to manipulation, because we have a fear somewhere, and you can only be manipulated if you have a fear somewhere. Heidi, do you have an example of that?
An example, I don't know, but for me, the manipulation comes out of the desire of the other person to have power over you. And you have to decide if you give them the power or not. Sometimes we fall into the situation, and normally when you really watch it, they have a strange feeling in your body. There's something, and we are used to say, oh no, it's nothing. It's such a nice person, kind, and he's giving me that. She is doing this for me, blah, 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 blah. And we, with our head, we are trying to silence this strange alarm feeling, which is at the beginning, it might be very, very little. But if we learn to pay attention to that, to these little feelings who say, oh, there is something uncomfortable. Yeah? You begin to feel uncomfortable. You would like to go away, you know, something like that, or end the situation, but you don't because you think you have to stay here. You are invited and you cannot make a drama by going away or something like that. Become aware of that and then decide. And it might be that you say to the person, you know, I have the feeling there is something else you want from me. You are saying this and this and this. I understand it at that. And could you please be clearer? Or something like that. Really go, what you said, right? Cut the process of manipulation. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, the best indication that it was manipulation is when this person gets angry. Then you can be sure that it was manipulation, because you have crossed out his intent to manipulate you, to get his goals, to reach his goals, his or her. It's not necessarily a man. So normally people react with being angry. Yeah. So, but if the other person say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was not my intent," then you can go on. And if the person becomes angry, then it's another, you know, he's trying to draw all, how do you say, all buttons of his manipulation techniques. Anger and giving the responsibility to the other person for the anger is one of that. And if you take it on and back down, he has won. If you instead say, what is that, you know? Why do you react in this way? It's and so on. Find a way to be protected against this anger. He might become more angry, so you can angry. Then you can say, "Oh, okay, I see. I have nothing to do here. I'm leaving." Remove yourself out of the physical space is the best thing to do, because otherwise it won't probably. It will be a fight, you know, or it takes so much energy and so much, how do you say, skill and decision and strength on your part to really be able and let the balls jump off whenever they come to you, you know. This is really, really difficult, and you need to be quite good in it. So I would recommend just go. And when you meet the person the next time, ask them if they have some time to talk about it. And then try to talk with them about what was going on. And if they can see it, then it's fine. If they cannot see it and it repeats itself for several times, you might think about if you just cancel this person out of your list of acquaintances or friends.
So that's a really cool thing. Remove them from who you want to associate. But there is something I think we need to remember. They provided the lessons for us, right? The lesson for us. So I wasn't able to communicate with that person. So I can afterwards think about, okay, what could I have done differently? And then learn as much as possible all the little things that, okay, I didn't pay attention to this thing, I didn't pay attention to this thing. And then you have a little list of things, not to make you cringe or feeling bad, but you have your curriculum and your the task, the topics that you still haven't possibly mastered yet. And if you can see it as a, you know, a curriculum for a mastery class, yeah, I use some violent words here, calling them names, and then they talk back. Okay, so can I adjust that? So the violent naming can maybe be one of these things that is on that list to avoid. and
Sure.
not.
I'm completely agreeing that they are a sort of challenge for us to go on in our development. I was talking about crossing out the people of your list when it is going on and on and on and on. And even if you have learned your lesson, and even if you try to put in place everything which you have learned, and they just don't come on the same level with you, then it's useless to spend any more energy in it. That's what I'm saying. Not run away the first time. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But learn what you can do better. Try to do it better. Try it out 1 time, twice, 3 times, 4 times, in a close relationship, even maybe 10 or 20 times. And if nothing, and you always, observing yourself and getting better from one time to the other. Not that you have one set of things you want to get better and that's it for all the 20 times, but every time do the process and find out what could I have done differently. And after a considerable amount of times that just the person behaved in the same way towards you and you don't want to have it anymore in your energy field, a person like that, and then you decide. And even if it's, your mother, even decide to go to see her twice a year for 2 days, and that's it. And it can happen that when she understands that you don't come to her anymore because she is nagging all the time and blah 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 blah, she might change, even if she is 80 or something. When you really take the action, when you say, I won't come to you anymore if it is like that every time, and I do my best to change it, and it doesn't change, so I don't come anymore. You will see there are so many examples where this has happened.
Yeah, but when we're saying it with calm and from a grounded, can you see, like, from our inner authentic being, and we're saying it not on a high-pitched voice in screaming mode, but coming from our true self. This is what I'm going to do, and that's it. That's a chance for them also to own their stuff. And when you enforce that, what you say you're going to do by doing it, then they might come around or not. It's up to them at that point.
Absolutely. And Kate says, so the manipulators are teaching us to be more aware.
Yay, yes.
Absolutely.
So invite as many manipulators in your life as possible, and then cross them off one by one, and you're going to get mastery in no time.
And after a time, the manipulators wouldn't even try to do their job with you anymore, because they feel that you have seen through their plans, through their intentions. So we get used to it, and it's a good school for everybody of us. And also, we can turn around the arrow, as we say in German. We also need to see when we have the tendency to manipulate others. And it's still, even when we are very evolved, there comes like automatic from somewhere the impulse to do something which you as a conscious being wouldn't want to do, And then be aware also of that, where you have the tendency to rationalize, and behind there are triggered needs, of yourself. And you try to make other people behave and do what you want them to do in a not very clean way. So we have to watch that too.
Well, that's a very good example, Heidi, of owning our stuff, because I think in sort of a healing situation, we're talking about, if I have a hole here in my aura, somebody can come in and sneak in that hole. Do you understand what I mean? There is an opening energetically that I allow a manipulator or an aggressor or some other thing come into me, and I'm attracting that really on an energetic level. It's like a magnet to somebody to come in. That's why, one abused woman gets another abusive man after another, until she can learn to close that energetic damage in her aura, in her energy body. So if you have these things happening, embrace them, and don't be, faced by, okay, this is too hard. Ask for help. That's why we have all these coaches and therapists around. Go and seek help if you can't deal with it yourself. But be responsible for it. Be responsible and say, okay, I have this problem. Now I'm going to address this. I can ask for help. I can call my friends. I can go to a therapist. I can handle it. It looks good on me to actually ask for help.
Yeah, and this is really what we want to do in our shows here, to inspire people to take over their power, to regain their power, to step out of victimism. Victimism says, oh, I don't know what to do, nobody can help me, it's what it is, and my husband is like he is, I don't want to be alone, and so I better put up with what he's doing to me, or whatever other person we are talking about. This is victimism, and there seems so many good reasons to not step out. For instance, oh, what shall I do alone, and I won't have any money, and so on. You must be very clear that's you doing the decisions. And if you tolerate abuse or bad treatment by other people, this is also your decision. What, you can ask yourself, what is more important to me? What is so important to me that I pay with this treatment? Is it the safety, security? And as you said, Margarita, before, the fear. Is it the fear of being alone? The fear of being abandoned? Of not being good enough to live in this world alone? And so I better allow other people to treat me in ways which make me unhappy? Or even more, there are many people, especially women, which in these situations create cancer, or in old times it was tuberculosis, and they took themselves out of the situation by dying. Is it what you want? Or do you want to have a satisfying life? And if you want that, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to decide, I'm stepping out of the old game. And if I cannot do it alone, and normally nobody can do it alone, I couldn't do it alone. Margarita, I guess you couldn't do it alone either.
Couldn't. I went for help. I studied everything I could about healing. I went all over the world to learn about how do you do it. I mean, I studied math in university, and I have this idea. I want to find out, how does it actually work? And that has helped me immensely. And so now I can help other people with this. And I know, Heidi, you do that too for other people.
Absolutely. I have here another comment from Caleb Mongare. I hope I pronounced that right. And he says, what about people who just want to take in more than they give during a conversation? I mean, this is very easy. You just say, stop. I want to say something. It's not only you here, we are in two. I want to say something too. And if they don't want to hear, when it's a long, I mean, what we said before, when it is repeatedly with the same person, when you can't make yourself heard, although you are really presenting yourself in a good way, not in screaming, not in blaming, not in demanding, but just make a request. We are here together to talk, and you are talking already for 2 hours, and I would like to tell you something about me. Would you please listen to me? And if this person doesn't react to that, I don't know if this is the right conversation partner then for you, if you want to contribute something. If instead you enjoy just to listen to other people, then it's fine. It's your decision what is good for you and what you want to have in a conversation. And you have the power to present your stand to, not only the other person. Okay? Is it the answer? What would you say, Margarita?
Yeah, I think this is very valuable. I had a relationship where the other party, they were talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and then I listened. It was very interesting, but I never got to express myself. And as soon as I started to talk about what I wanted to talk about, Well, I don't have time for this, or like uh, it didn't really work, and of course it didn't work, and I didn't know what I know today. Uh, that if there is not sort of a balance, there's a tipping board, given and receiving. If that doesn't balance out, so that both parties can have enjoy it and build their own confidence or attain more skills, and then you have a partner instead that just takes from you, that has to be stopped. Because it's like Heidi and I here, we try to give as much as possible, each one of us, and there is a balance on I'm talking now, and then Heidi's talking, and on the Hangouts, right? You have to be very conscious because you can't cut in, because then there's a delay, and then the transmission doesn't function that well. So it's very good practice to do Hangouts. So if anyone wants to do Hangouts with us, you just come and ask us.
Yeah, and what you said before, this is the question, what Caleb says, it's a question of setting boundaries, the right boundaries for yourself. I think, Margarita, we are at the end. It's 45. I would like to wrap it up. And I thank everybody who has listened to our show, and we will be here next Tuesday with a special guest, Melanie Hall, and we will talk about emotions and the behavior of young people in social media. I think it will be maybe not only young people, maybe also older people, but she especially wants to put her focus on young people and the impact it has on their future life. As you know, the goal of these transmissions is to help you to have more understanding of the skills and the capacities, and to develop them to handle with these important things which we have in our lives, the challenges and the problems, and also to make you understand that you are not the only one who has these problems, that we all have sort of the same problems, sort of, We all are humans, we all go through the same levels of development, so we are all presented with similar questions in life. And we are happy to give some help of the things we have already mastered to other people who might need it. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Margarita, and we see next Thursday at the same time. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for listening today. Blessings.